but Terence Crawford is the best fighter in the world. I would like to fight him.
Recent news confirms that Terence Crawford shockingly called out Sebastian Fundora to defend his titles in a unification bout at 154. Sebastian has only 30 days to accept the offer, and the clock is ticking fast. In a recent post on X, Terence Crawford showed his undying desperation to fight the biggest bouts possible, but it seems fate is not taking his side. Terence wrote, "I really just want to show the world how great I am." Previously, it had been thought that Fundora would be facing Errol Spence Jr. in the fall, but there hasn't been much notable movement on that, at least publicly. Fundora recently upset Tim Tszyu on short notice in March to win the WBC and WBO titles in Las Vegas by unanimous decision. On the other hand, Sebastian Fundora gave his comments on Terence Crawford. He said that if he can beat Crawford, then that would make him the next champion.
Of course. He's the number one. He's the number one in the world right now. He's the best boxer right now. So, again, if I could beat him, where does that put me?
You really gonna fight a 6'6" super welterweight though? You really think he'll?
Hey, the money's right. Why not?
Thank you, Sebastian.
Sebastian's team has indicated that they would like to keep both title belts, and that if the WBO ordered a Crawford fight, they would likely be going through with it in order to avoid being forced to vacate. Meanwhile, Terence Crawford recently fought Israel Madrimov at 154 pounds on August 3rd and won by unanimous decision. The boxing community was upset at Terence Crawford's lackluster performance and the controversial decision that followed. Eddie Hearn commented that the judges should have given Madrimov respect on the scorecards, and he also thinks the marking was unfair.
They both gave it to Crawford, and Dan Rafael said he needs to stop whining.
Yeah, I saw that. Dan Rafael can go. That's number one. Number two is he scored it 115, 113. Right? No problem with that scorecard, by the way. But it's like when so many people thought Madrimov won as well. Now, maybe not as many as Crawford, but a lot of people. And a lot of people scored it a draw. I'm just disappointed as champion that he got no respect on the scorecards.
Hearn said that Crawford's corner was extremely quiet during the fight, and at the very end, Terence landed a few punches which gave him the victory. Hearn elaborated his remarks on the biased decision and read Crawford's face after the fight. Eddie added, "Even Terence Crawford knew it was a really close call, and it could have been a draw, but he dismissed my statement." Former boxer Tim Bradley said that the Errol Spence fight makes much more sense for Fundora than Terence Crawford. Bradley astoundingly claimed that Terence Crawford would knock out Sebastian Fundora.
DBC is going to push for that fight, and that's probably going to be his next matchup. And I think, on paper, it's the better matchup for him. I don't think Fundora beats Crawford. I don't. I think he gets knocked out by Terence Crawford. But I think the Errol Spence fight makes sense.
Tim said that Errol Spence is coming from a major beatdown by Terence Crawford in 2023. He also explained that Errol has had eye surgeries and both Fundora and Errol are southpaws. Tim said that Sebastian has the reach and the style to maybe even hurt and stop Spence. Meanwhile, former boxer Sean Porter commented on Sebastian Fundora's last fight with Tim Tszyu. Sean claimed that the fight between Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora was a complete bloodbath. While Porter watched Fundora and Tszyu fight, he believed that this fight would not move past the fourth round. Sean further said that Tszyu was hurt really badly in the second and third rounds with a cut on his forehead, and it seemed like he did not have much experience with fighting taller opponents like Fundora. Porter also stated that Fundora did not escape the fight unharmed either. Sebastian got hurt on his nose and there was blood coming out of it, so he switched up the game and changed his movements. The fight eventually ended after a grueling 12 rounds, and Sebastian Fundora was marked the victor of the bout, claiming 2 belts. On the other hand, Israel Madrimov wasn't far behind in claiming that he wanted a piece of Terence Crawford once again. Israel Madrimov recently stated, "I was a world champion, and I deserve to be a world champion after August 3rd. Now my main goal is to regain that status." Madrimov further stated, "Right now I'm ready for a rematch with Crawford to regain my title, or to challenge any of the other junior middleweight champions. A rematch with Terence Crawford is my goal, but I'm not sure he is interested right now. Our fight still has left many questions unanswered. The punishment that Madrimov dished out to Crawford will make it highly unlikely the Nebraska native, Crawford, will ever fight him again or face any of the talented 154-pounders. Madrimov's best bet to become world champion again at junior middleweight is to fight Sebastian Fundora, but he seems booked to Crawford. In addition, Eddie Hearn claimed that Terence Crawford is demanding far too much money for fight at 154-pound division. Hearn previously stated that Tim Tszyu could beat Fundora, but he doesn't see him winning against Crawford.
Yeah. Tim Tszyu will beat Fundora. Tim Tszyu can fight.
Yeah.
He can fight. I mean, it's not, I don't think he beats Terence Crawford, but he's a strong young boy who's very exciting. There's money in Australia for those kind of fights. It's just that Terence Crawford, the numbers that he wants for those fights, I don't really know how you generate it. on a pay-per-view that just doesn't rate.
Even trainer Jose Benavidez Sr. said Terence Crawford is not an exciting fighter and reminds him of Shakur Stevenson with his approach to fighting. He feels that Crawford just focuses on winning rounds and doesn't go out of his way to entertain the fans like his son David Benavidez. Benavidez Sr. criticized Terence Crawford for his poor performance against Madrimov. Benavidez Sr. said, "I'm not even going to compare David to Terence Crawford. David is an exciting fighter. David comes to throw punches and risk a lot. He comes to put on a performance. What is even more interesting is that David Benavidez shared that he was offered to fight Crawford at 160 pounds by Turki Al-Sheikh. David said, "I had talked to Turki, great guy. They had wanted me to fight in August. I told them I'm with PBC. We got this big card coming up. So I think it was just a conversation of opening the doors that this might be a reality that we could make this happen. We never got to that point." Benavidez further added on what Turki had said, "He did mention to me one fighter. He wanted me to go down to 160 and fight Crawford. I said, bro, I cannot do that. If I was able to make 160, that would be amazing, but I can't. I don't remember the last time I weighed 160. I would love to share the ring with him, but not at 160. On the other hand, the WBO have now officially ordered Sebastian Fundora to defend his WBC and WBO super welterweight world titles in a unification versus Terence Crawford next. Crawford has the WBA super welterweight world title and the WBO interim belt. 30 days to agree a deal, then purse bids. The ruling further stated, failure to move forward with the fight without the other party's consent will result in forfeiture of their version of the WBO title. There has been no date set for Fundora to face Spence, but the champion had previously stated this was the path he was on. Fundora declared that he wanted to fight both Spence and Terence Crawford.
Everybody has goals, in boxing. He's a legend right now in this sport, and one of the top fighters. So, I like to get in the ring with him too. It'll be a great fight. He's before that Terence Crawford fight, he was considered one of the best fighters in the world. So, let's do it. Whatever they give me, Errol Spence is a great opportunity. I think it's a match made in heaven. But Terence Crawford is the best fighter in the world. I would like to fight him.
Former boxer Paulie Malignaggi stated that Sebastian Fundora is a decent fighter in the 154-pound division because of his great height and reach. Paulie also stated that Terence Crawford is coming 154, and there could be a possible return of Errol Spence as well.
Sebastian Fundora is looking great. He has the reach, he has the height, he has a lot of difficulties for his opposition. But when we listed out who has the biggest draw, you said he's probably the least. Could a victory over Errol Spence Jr., if it is dominant, launch him into that superstar range?
The 154-pound division is sort of messy right now, but in a good way. There's good fighters. You can't really see who's going to be the top of it yet. You can never count out Crawford dominating again, but you keep in mind his age, and you don't know how long he's going to stay at that weight class. So there's a lot of confusion in the 154-pound division, but it's a confusion that you don't mind because there's a lot of possible fights that can be made. Boxing, though, loves not to keep its own rules. Errol Spence is not supposed to get a title shot coming off a loss. So the fact that we're even talking about this is wild. But as usual, boxing makes it up as it goes along.
Paulie commented on Errol Spence stepping into the ring to call out Fundora. This is to no one's shock and surprise. The Errol Spence was inside the ring once Fundora was declared the winner a few months ago against Shu. Malignaggi has said that he would have liked Errol to get a fight in between the Crawford fight before he steps up against Fundora, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Paulie stated that the long layoffs coming into the Crawford fight for Spence has damaged his reputation, and then there is another long layoff before he fights Fundora. Paulie claimed that Spence does not like tune-ups. He jumps right into action, but Paulie also believed that tune-ups are necessary since those are the rules. The main reason why Terence Crawford came to the 154-pound division was to eventually have a fight against Canelo Alvarez at 168, but given his poor performance against Madrimov, it seems extremely difficult that he could take on a challenge such as Canelo. Moreover, Madrimov rocked Terence Crawford really badly, and he claimed that he was in charge of the battle and that he never felt threatened by Crawford. According to Madrimov, he has a great deal of fighting experience and has shown that he can confront fighters like Crawford with real toughness. When the fight was over, Israel confidently stated that he felt really good and accomplished. Paulie Malignaggi seemed worried when he heard that Crawford was chasing Canelo because Terence couldn't put the forward pressure on Madrimov.
Crawford coming into this fight was looked at, if he won the fight, they were going to try to make the Canelo fight. I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on this. I thought Crawford boxed intelligently, boxed terrific. His high IQ as always. Wasn't as strong obviously at this weight class, and you saw that, but he was still, his IQ was high enough and he was able to win a competitive matchup. I'm just wondering if he wasn't able to keep the forward pressure of Madrimov, deter the forward pressure of Madrimov? How's he going to deter the forward pressure of Canelo?
On the other hand, Terence Crawford showed his frustration at Errol Spence for snatching his opponent, Sebastian Fundora, as Errol stepped in the ring to call out the Titan. Moreover, Paulie said that Fundora deserves the credit for his win against Tim Tszyu, even though the win was controversial, due to the fact that Tim received a severe cut by the gigantic 6 feet 6 inches Titan. Malignaggi commented that Terence Crawford and Fundora are both raising plenty of questions for the public going into this fight. Paulie said that any fighter in the 154-pound division could beat both Sebastian and Crawford. I think Ortiz and Tszyu beat both of them. You know what I mean? Like both of those guys beat any fighter in that fight, you know what I mean? But we're gonna have that main event in a stadium, and Ortiz and Tszyu are going to be a co-main event to Crawford. Like, you understand why boxing is so weird. Meanwhile, former boxer Andre Ward was asked about Sebastian Fundora, so he hinted on Errol Spence aiming to fight Sebastian next.
What do you think of Terence fighting the winner of Saturday's fight, Tszyu and Fundora? He's made himself the mandatory for the winner.
I think it could be good, but then all of a sudden we see a tweet from Errol Spence.
Right.
So Errol Spence, from what I know, is not going to tweet nothing like that unless there's some backdoor conversations going on saying you in position.
Before Tim Tszyu fought Sebastian Fundora, it was rumored that Tim would emerge victorious, and the winner would have to fight Terence Crawford. Andre Ward seemed excited to see how Errol Spence's next fight turns out. Ward explained the irony behind Errol Spence fighting Fundora. He said that the top guy of the 154-pound division should be fighting Terence Crawford, but then you see Errol matching up with Fundora, which is really tricky, but it's happening in the boxing world. In another interview, Sebastian Fundora's promoter Samson talked about the options that Fundora has among Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. He ironically responded in favor of Spence because that will be the best payday for Fundora.
Now I need to maximize the most money for the fighter. I believe he deserves it.
Is that Errol Spence Jr.?
That's correct.
Over Crawford? Like, does Spence more money? Or?
No, Crawford will not sell out 90,000 people in Dallas.
While talking about Crawford, Samson claimed that he is a better fighter than Errol Spence. He further added that the main goal is to generate the maximum profit for the fighters, and Errol Spence is the only way out. As Mayweather would say, boxing is business, and the thing about business is that it needs to turn around better. Samson painfully admitted that Errol Spence is a tough opponent, as he said, "I believe that this one of the point that, well, Spence is a really good fighter anyway, especially in 154, so I believe that he would have a shot, but now you need to wait like you made others wait. That is the boxing world, there not only one way, there are two ways." On the other hand, Errol Spence Jr. seemed wildly excited to fight Fundora, which will eventually lead him to a rematch with Crawford.
You told Bud you don't wait in lines. You know, you mentioned that you might want to fight Fundora. Are you staying to that? You still want to come back and fight Fundora?
Oh yeah, for sure. Come back and fight Fundora, then you know, I guess you know, Crawford mandatory, so we'll do a fight too.
Meanwhile, former CEO of Mayweather Promotions, Leonard Alurbe, was asked about the Errol versus Fundora matchup. He responded by saying that Errol is his own master, and he gets whatever he wants.
What's up, Leonard, man?
What's up, boss, man?
Tim Tszyu's manager said that they will vacate that would be your title to fight Errol Spence first instead of Crawford, man. What do you think about that, man?
Well, again, I saw a tweet yesterday from Errol. The difference between Errol and everybody else, Errol gets what he wants.
Leonard further remarked that Errol is family. If he says he wants to fight Fundora, then Al Heyman, who is Errol's promoter, is going to make it happen. What do you think about Terence Crawford facing Fundora? Was the Errol Spence matchup a better bet for Sebastian? Let us know in the comments section below, and subscribe for more content like this.